For my 1,000 subscriber special, I am ranking all of my 50 coaster credits. I know I'm a little late, but this video took me so long to make. But I am very grateful I can do this and have the opportunity, and that I have a community that supports and actually watches my videos. Also, one more thing, I'm actually only doing 48 since that's how many credits I have, but 50 sounds better in the title, so that's what I'm rolling with, but let's begin. 48th place is Corkscrew at Cedar Point. This ride is awful. The turns and inversions are all painful and have terrible design, and the restraints allow for unreal amount of headbanging. 47th place goes to Invertigo at Kings Island. This is another terrible headbanger. It does pull some good forces, but that Cobra roll is just treacherous and not good. 46th place is Flying Ace Aerial Chase at Kings Island. This is just a kid's ride, so no real forces, but those restraints are right against your ears, and it's called a hang and bang for a reason. 45th place is Tidal Twist at the Columbus Zoo. This is just a wild mouse, and it isn't great. All the turns are not fun, and wild mice aren't really my favorite model. 44th place is Wilderness Run at Cedar Point. It's just a family coaster with some turns and a small hill. 43rd place is Great Pumpkin Coaster at Kings Island. Another family coaster, but this just has hills and a little turn, but nothing special. 42nd place is Woodstock Express at Cedar Point. This ride has some good turns and is a good stepping stone coaster for younger fans. 41st spot is Woodstock Express at Kings Island. A solid kids Woody with some solid drops that actually do have a little bit of airtime in the back and is pretty fun. 40th place is Sea Dragon at Columbus Zoo. Another solid Woody that's about 40 feet tall and has some good turns and bumps throughout the course. 39th place is Flight of the Hippogriff at Islands of Adventure. This is very similar to Woodstock Express at Cedar Point, but the extra theming puts it up a couple more spots. 38th place goes to Cedar Creek Mine Ride at Cedar Point. This is a solid era mine train that looks good over the water, but the age is really shine because it's so rough, but it's still a okay family coaster. 37th place is Pterodon Flyers at Islands of Adventure. Pterodon Flyers doesn't have any thrill or forces at all, but I love the views that you get while riding this thing. 36th place goes to Iron Dragon at Cedar Point. A pretty good family coaster at Cedar Point, but it starts off really slow, but towards the end of the ride, you do get some nice turns over the water that are pretty nice. 35th place is Wild Mouse at Cedar Point. This is a nice addition to the boardwalk area since it doesn't take up that much room and is a good ride. I love the spinning aspect of this ride, and it's pretty unique for Cedar Point. 34th place is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Magic Kingdom. This ride was a big letdown for me. The ride is very quick and does not have the theming elements that other roller coasters at Magic Kingdom has. 33rd place is Soupy Soapbox Racers at Kings Island. The new for 2024 ride is great. It's smooth, has some good turns, and the spikes are awesome even though they aren't that tall. 32nd place is Blue Streak at Cedar Point. This ride has potential, but Cedar Point refuses to unlock it. If this ride was as smooth as Racer at Kings Island, this thing would be an amazing out and back airtime filled Woody. Please smooth it out at Cedar Point, I'm telling you, it would be so good. 31st place is Backlot Stunt Coaster. I'm also not a huge fan of this ride, but the launch and Triple Helix are surprisingly intense, but after that, it just dies. The turns are pretty boring, but the theming is really good for Kings Island standards. 30th place is Space Mountain. I haven't been on this for a while, and the whole experience was kind of a blur, but I remembered liking it. Theming-wise, it's pretty good, having some good theming elements scattered around the entire ride, and taking all the turns in the dark was overall really fun. 29th place goes to Thunder Mountain at Magic Kingdom. The whole man-made mountain and the area around it is just stunning. The ride is also great, having some good turns, drops, and the thing just lasts forever, I swear. It's like over 3 minutes long. 28th place is Adventure Express at Kings Island. I definitely like this a little bit more than Cedar Creek Mine Ride. The fact that this is a newer ride compared to many other mine trains around the world and all the renovations that Kings Island did turned this ride from a bottom of the park to a good ride now. 28th place is Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld Orlando. The theming at the beginning is actually criminally underrated. It's actually so beautiful. The drops are fun and you just get soaked, which is really good for some hot Orlando days. 26th place is Rougarou at Cedar Point. This ride is the definition of mid, and that's why it ranks almost dead last on my list. It does have some good spots of the ride, like the straight drop and the turns at the end that are very unique for this type of ride. But there are just no good inversions on this thing, and I wish it had a 0G roll. 25th place is Flight of Fear at Kings Island. This ride is starting to get underrated since it's a solid ride now. The launch is great, and the compact layout in the dark is always fun with its fast-paced turns and good inversions. But that mid-course is just a buzzkill, and I hate the thing. 24th place is Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point. This is a ride that I don't fully understand the hype for. Some people say it's really good, but for me it's just a hit or miss ride. Sometimes it's great, but other times it's so rough it's crazy. Those final hills are just as advertised though. They are so intense and some of the strongest airtime in the entire world. 23rd place is Gemini at Cedar Point. Gemini is so underrated, man. It's smoother than Magnum and is more enjoyable. All the drops are fun and have good floater airtime, and the turns are a little boring, but getting high fives is always a great time. 22nd place goes to Bat at Kings Island. Maybe the most underrated ride on this list. Bat is tucked away behind Banshee and the trees, and it almost never has a line, but it's so good and so fun. It's short but action-packed and is filled with so many good snaps from left to right, and all the valleys are incredibly intense for this type of ride. 21st place is Kraken at SeaWorld Orlando. Another mid B&M, but better than Rougarou since the inversions are a little bit better. Like Rougarou, the drop is good, and then it goes into some solid inversions like the G-Roll and the Cobra Roll, which are very whippy. Just another supporting cast roller coaster. 20th place is Racer at Cedar Point. This ride is so fun, and I love the upgrades that they did to Racer last season. The ride was almost unbearable and so rough, but the Gravity Group did their magic, and now it's perfectly smooth, airtime filled, and it's just so good now. 19th place is Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Hollywood. This ride is hated on so much, but it's a great time. The song choice is a pretty good gimmick, and the volume isn't actually too quiet. And on my ride, the mid-courses didn't really stop the train that much, and the airtime off them was really good. Also, that non-inverting loop was so good, like actually one of the best elements I've ever been on. 18th place is the Beast at Kings Island. This ride is very hit or miss like Magnum, but I can appreciate the insanity in the length of this ride. It for real lasts like 3 minutes, which is insane for a roller coaster, but you are not doing a whole lot most of the time. But the few good elements it has is some of the most intense, insane, and most bonkers elements ever. 17th place is Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. A lot of people say Icebreaker is the second best ride at SeaWorld, but it really isn't. The swing launch is very cool with the 4 launches, each one getting progressively faster and progressively getting more airtime. Then the second half is a lot of low to the ground floater hills that are good, but man, these cars / restraints are terrible. Legit one of the worst ever created, and I'm like, it's that bad. 16th place is Valraven at Cedar Point. All the drops in this ride are great, especially that first one, which has so much suspense. All the elements after the drops are pretty good too, having a good 0G roll and a solid airtime hill as well. The vests are not the best restraint ever, but I've said this many times in the past, I think they're way overhated. Re-ride Valraven and you will have a lot of fun, I promise you that. 15th place is Banshee at Kings Island. This ride is just pure intensity and size. It's huge, and all the elements represent that being huge and intense, especially that unique pretzel knot. Then you finish with a surprise hardline roll with great hang time to finish the ride, and overall, it's just a very good B&M. 15th place is Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. Gatekeeper is just a pure fun machine. Even though it's not the most intense ride ever, I find myself just having so much fun on this thing. The wing seating allows for amazing head choppers, and it gets me every time, I swear. And all the inversions are fun and smooth as glass. 13th place is the Incredible Hulk at Islands of Adventure. Intense is really the only way I can describe this ride. The launch out of the tunnel is absurd, and so is that 0G roll. Then you hit maybe the most intense sequence ever with the Cobra Roll, loop, and all the other inversions. The second half isn't that good, but the first half puts it all the way up at 13. 12th place is Raptor at Cedar Point, another positives machine. All the inversions are the best of old school B&M being whippy and so incredibly intense like the 0G roll, Cobra Roll, and the corkscrews. Then that double helix at the end is extremely intense and insane. 11th place is Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. I do think that this ride is overrated, but it's still a very good ride. It's an onslaught of low to the ground airtime hills and turns that have good floater airtime and laterals. But laterals aren't my thing, and the airtime could be just so much stronger. 10th place is Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. Manta being this high might be a surprise, but I just love flyers. Being able to fly over pathways and do inversions in the air is just so cool. And the actual trains and being face down is really cool to me and just brings me so much joy every time I ride this thing. Also, the pretzel loop is the most intense moment I've ever been on, and it's not even close. Pulling at least 4 Gs for 10 straight seconds, and I feel like I'm gonna pass out every single time. 9th place is Pipeline at SeaWorld Orlando. This model is good, and I can't wait to see what they can do in the future. The launch is solid, and that little bunny hill during it is really good. Then you go into a ton of ejector hills, and that's because the trains actually just make you feel like you're going to get ejected because of it being able to move up and down. Then there are some tight turns at the end of the ride that add some good positives that are a good way to finish the ride. 8th place is Millennium Force at Cedar Point. The OG Giga slides in at 8, and it's well deserved. The first drop is debatably the best on the list, and you just get flown into the air. Then you have some overbanks that do get pretty repetitive, but it's not that bad, and it has some solid hills with floater to ejector airtime. The ride has its problems, but its sense of speed is unmatched, and it's really not even close to any other coasters. 7th place is Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure. This ride isn't intense by any means, but that's not the reason why I placed it this high. The theming is just on a whole nother level and better than any other coaster in the world. From the queue line to on-ride, it's incredibly impressive. It also has every element that you can think of with a spike, backward section, drop track, and many more, not even including the 7 launches. Most diverse ride in the world in my opinion, and you can't even argue with it. It has everything. 6th place goes to Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. Mako is very good, but has some problems, and that's why I can't put it in the top 5. The first drop in all the hills in the first half are some of the smoothest track I have ever been on, while also having some of the best airtime in the world. But the ending is a dud, and I don't like it compared to other B&M Hyper endings. But the airtime in the first half is that good and worth the wait every time. 5th place is Diamondback at Kings Island. If you like just straight airtime, this ride is definitely for you. It's just hill after hill of amazing floater and what this model is basically known for. The first 2 hills are borderline ejector airtime, and the smaller ones at the end have solid pops of floater. Personally, the front is the best row for me, but all the other rows are very elite. 4th place goes to Orion at Kings Island. This ride is so underrated and my favorite at my home park. The first drop is elite and feels like it lasts forever. The airtime of this thing is surprisingly diverse with floater, ejector, and off-bank airtime all composed into one ride. And it has those amazing B&M clamshells that are perfect in every way and just so good. Easily a top 5 restraint ever created. And the helix to mix up the forces towards the end of the ride is definitely a little bit of some... And the helix to mix up the forces is actually really intense, and I really do like the positives. 3rd place is Maverick at Cedar Point. This is a close second place at Cedar Point, and it's for a good reason. Maverick is a pioneer of the launch coaster, and it's the first ever Intamin Blitz model. That 95-degree drop and that launch is just so powerful. The airtime is on a RMC level, and the whippiness is also out of this world. If you can get past the not-so-good restraints, it's legit one of the best coaster experiences that you can find on Earth. Second place goes to Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. This is my favorite Intamin, and it's a perfect ride in my opinion. The theming is so good from queue line to the Raptor paddock, and it looks amazing. And don't sleep on that layout. The top hat, outer bank, and all 4 inversions are spectacular, especially that Mosasaurus roll that just feels like you're just gonna dunk your head straight into the lake. Velocicoaster is the perfect thrill ride for Islands of Adventure, and I'm so glad that this masterpiece was put in at this park. First place is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. I said this many times before that this is my favorite ride, and it's another perfect one. The thing is just a berserk of airtime moments, actually having the world record for most airtime. And it has sustained moments and smaller pops at the end to mix up the type of airtime. Throw in buttery smooth track and some great inversions, and you get a perfect roller coaster. Thanks for watching. I'm so glad that I can have an audience that likes watching my videos and actually enjoys me creating content. And again, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. It doesn't feel real. I'm trying to get to 2,000, 3,000, all the other milestones, you know. And yeah, love you guys.